We are bouncing off May the 24th.
A vindicator in action. That's very good news.
Tell your maker I will come to storm down his gates of gold.
Has Doctor Who's most recent couple of Mrs. Flood appearances
Show ends May the 24th.
actually given us the clues we need to identify who this character may be? Well, today I have a huge theory for you. I think I've figured out the villains of the finale, this unholy trinity that Russell T Davies keeps referring to, and I think I may have a good guess at who Mrs. Flood in fact is. I also may have answers on one thing that's been troubling me since the Devil's Cord. What on earth was Maestro talking about when she talks about this song inside Ruby's soul?
I am asking you just...
That's wrong.
What do you mean?
There's a hidden song deep inside our soul!
And that the oldest one was there.
The oldest one? He can't have been there.
Who is the oldest one? Because we're led to believe that it's Sutek, right? Like he's the one who waits. Or is he? If Sutek's been latched onto the TARDIS that entire time, sure, he's the god of death. When has he had time to go to these gods of chaos Pantheon meetings? Like, how can they all be scared of Sutek? Well, I think Maestro's comments are going to be recontextualised, and I think there's a lot more to all of this overarching story than meets the eye. Because you've got to remember, Russell has repeatedly said seasons 1 and 2 were done as a block. Disney ordered 2 full seasons of Doctor Who, plus a spin-off, and he almost treated these 2 seasons as one block. There were only a couple of months in between filming, so he's going to have known when writing The Devil's Cord where it will end up. Let's take a look at Mrs. Flood's latest appearance to see if it sheds any light on the matter. Now, this one is an interesting one because it felt, rather than a Mrs. Flood appearance, it felt like a Susan Triad appearance from last season. She just sort of shows up with this space uniform and is asking that commander about the Doctor's use of the Vindicator.
Was he carrying this?
Yes, he was, yes.
Just as I predicted, a vindicator in action. That's very good news.
Now, this is an interesting appearance from Mrs. Flood because normally, I think this is one of the rare times, if not the only time, where she's seen not to be in control, or at least somewhat knowledgeable about the events that are going to occur. She's asking a question. She needs somebody else's help. Or she could just be role-playing here. Like, Susan Triad didn't know she was different people scattered throughout time, whereas Mrs. Flood seems to have that knowledge. Maybe she's just cosplaying. Now, why is she specifically asking about the Doctor's use of the Vindicator? My theory here is, well, we know that the Vindicator's use is to draw like a fishing line, is what the 15th Doctor says, like a fishing line to draw the TARDIS, the Doctor and Belinda back to May 24th, the one date that the TARDIS keeps bouncing off. And I think Mrs. Flood is happy about that because she wants them to go to May 24th. I think that's the date her plan that she talks about in the Empire of Death is all going to come to fruition.
Such plans.
But who or what is it that's bouncing the TARDIS away from May 24th? Well, here's where the theory gets really interesting. I think it's safe to assume that in this era of the Doctor facing off against the Pantheon of the gods of chaos, the Pantheon of Discord, they go by many names, that Mrs. Flood is in fact some form of god or eternal being. I think it's no coincidence that characters like Maestro can break the fourth wall. The gods can break the fourth wall because they are so powerful. But what god is Mrs. Flood? I'd like to pose to you the idea that Mrs. Flood is in fact the Black Guardian. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Classic Who, I'll give you a quick recap of this character. You see, there's 2 of them. There's the Black Guardian, the force for chaos, evil and destruction, etc. And then the White Guardian, the source for light and joyous happiness. While they haven't been directly named as parts of the Pantheon, they are part of the Eternals, whom the Toymaker belongs to. And if the Toymaker's part of the Pantheon, why not these guys? Also, for another little piece of evidence, the Forbidden Planet released this, like, God of Chaos merch for the Black Guardian a while back, which seems maybe a bit random, unless this is them trying to sort of refresh and maybe accidentally selling some merch a little bit early. But these two work in tandem, so my theory, and I'll explain 101 reasons why, is that Mrs. Flood is in fact the Black Guardian, who impersonates the White Guardian to try and trick a certain someone to get to the Doctor. Because this is also what they did in Classic Who. The Black Guardian disguised themselves as a force for good during the Tom Baker years. And I mean, just look at the coat that Mrs. Flood wears here. This doesn't look too dissimilar to the sort of thing that the White Guardian would wear. And I think that the real White Guardian has been imprisoned somewhere or chained away, but just like in Classic Who, their ability to somewhat control the TARDIS is still in play. The White Guardian is the one pushing the TARDIS away from May 24th because the White Guardian knows about the Black Guardian's plans. Which is why Mrs. Flood is happy about the use of the Vindicator, because it means the Doctor will be taken to May 24th despite the White Guardian's efforts to stop him.
A Vindicator in action. That's very good news.
But what are these plans that Mrs. Flood, the Black Guardian, has? Well, once again, if we refer back to Classic Who, this stuck-up little schoolboy, Turlo, who looks about 40, but imagine he's a teenager. Good old BBC casting. But Turlo is a bit reckless, and he crashes this car. He basically dies, and then the Black Guardian appears to him and says, I'll give you your life back, I'll give you all these powers if you do something in return for me.
I need to know that I have your assent to our arrangement.
So Turlo then, in return for this, has to go hunt down and kill the Doctor. I think that we're going to get a modern interpretation of this with the character Conrad. This is Ruby's boyfriend, and I reckon there's more to him than meets the eye. We know that the Doctor goes back and visits him in 2007. They have a very brief interaction, so Conrad knows who the Doctor is. I reckon that once young Conrad has met the Doctor, something happens in his life of natural causes. Maybe he's in a near-death situation, or a family member like his mother is. I reckon that Mrs. Flood, the Black Guardian, appears to young Conrad and says, I need you to track down the Doctor for X reason. I don't know exactly what she wants, but she's tasked Conrad with following the Doctor. And why do I think this? Well, we've seen from multiple trailers that Conrad does appear to have been stalking the Doctor and Ruby. That was very hard. But no, he was. He seems to have been stalking the Doctor and Ruby in Season 1. He's hiding behind the TARDIS. Is it a natural curiosity that's led him to track down the Doctor and Ruby? Or is it Mrs. Flood telling him, get close to the Doctor? So he ends up tracking down the Doctor and Ruby, falls into a romantic relationship with Ruby, all for the purpose of whatever the Black Guardian wants. I reckon she'll have pretended to Conrad. She'll have gone in a big fluffy white coat. Oh, I'm an angel of death, and I can give you your life back if you do this thing for me. Now, this plan does seem similar to a certain someone from the Sarah Jane Adventures, but I'll come on to how they tie into this in a moment. Because I also want to ask the question, right? Let's say the White Guardian is imprisoned or trapped somewhere. Who are they? I reckon it could be a character we already know. Are the similarities between Susan Triad and Mrs. Flood's inclusion within this season coincidental? Because, do you know what I mean? Like, would Russell really repeat this sort of plot thread of who's this mysterious old woman 2 years in a row? Quite possibly. But what if Susan Triad isn't just like this sort of harbinger for Sutekh, but she is in fact the form of the White Guardian trapped into a human body? Maybe she's a double sleeper agent. She was a sleeper agent for Sutekh, and she's also, when the time is nigh, come forward and face off against Mrs. Flood. Now, that is maybe a weaker theory there, but a funny theory, which, look, it would just be really fun. There's this talk of the one who waits, right? Cherry Sunday. What if she's a sleeper agent? What if Cherry Sunday is in fact the White Guardian who is ready to face up to Mrs. Flood when the moment comes? How has Cherry Sunday never mentioned to Carla or Ruby about the time that Mrs. Flood sat on the edge of her bed and went, I have such plans, I'm going to destroy everything? What if Cherry Sunday is in fact the White Guardian who's maybe been through a bit of memory loss and this was the Black Guardian taunting the White Guardian? Cherry's been waiting for a cup of tea, the one who waits. And then if we want to go even crazier, tinfoil hats back on everyone. Remember, I keep bringing attention to the spoons. Something suspicious is going on with the spoons in the Doctor Who universe. Each god has been brought to life by a spoon. Maestro was first seen in a spoon. Sutekh was defeated with a spoon. Lux was brought to life with a spoon. You use a spoon to stir tea. Cherry Sunday wants her tea. Cherry Sunday is in fact the White Guardian in disguise. A literal sleeper agent in her bed. Okay, we'll slow down with that because that's a sillier version of this theory, but who knows? Just let me know in the comments who you think the White Guardian could be. Anyway, as I was saying, this sort of idea of appearing to someone in their death, offering them a choice, is very similar to the Trickster from the Sarah Jane Adventures. And we know that the finale has the unholy trinity. We've seen the Trickster appear in white, appear in black to try and trick people into their thing, and we know for a fact that the Trickster is part of the Pantheon. Now, remember what Maestro said. There's a hidden song inside Ruby's soul. I'm taking us right back to 2024 theorising, in that sound that Ruby sings and hums sounds exactly like the Trickster's theme from Sarah Jane. Let me just play you a flashback clip.
That's wrong.
What do you mean?
There's a hidden...
Maestro, I am asking you, just...
There's a hidden song deep inside our soul!
I'm not 100% sure exactly how it all ties together, but was that musical cue an accident? Is there more to Ruby, the Trickster, and the Black and White Guardian than we're all thinking? When the salt was sprinkled in Wild Blue Yonder, did that in fact elevate the Trickster's power? He gets an actual name drop in The Legend of Ruby Sunday. So who's to say the Trickster isn't in control or in league with the Black and White Guardian, one of whom is Mrs. Flood? Maybe Maestro was actually referring to the oldest one, or the one who waits, being the Trickster, who's waited all of this time for his plan with whatever Conrad has been tasked to do to come to fruition. And let's not forget that the finale, Wish World, like the Trickster basically grants wishes. He's like, I mean, he's not like a genie, but he's like, if you do this for me, you can have this wish, your big desire, come back to life or get married to Sarah Jane. Like, he offers loads of wishes. And also, skip ahead 10-15 seconds if you really don't want spoilers. I kind of wish I didn't know this, but it adds to the theory, so it's nothing too major, but you may want to skip ahead. Literally just 10 seconds, go, it's not a massive spoiler. But we know that something fishy is going on with Conrad, and maybe this was Conrad's wish in the finale, whatever Mayday is. Conrad agrees to the Trickster's terms, so Conrad is gifted his wish world and causes some form of reality war. Back to non-spoiler territory here, but we know Russell loves to kind of reuse concepts he never got to make, and Russell had come up with the whole concept for the Battle of Bannerman Road in Series 5 of the Sarah Jane Adventures, which featured the Trickster using 13 Bannerman Road, Sarah Jane's house, as this big temporal hub for all his evil activities, and Skye was going to be the daughter of the Trickster. I mean, we're going right back to last year, but maybe Ruby is somehow the daughter of the Trickster. We're still yet to meet Ruby's dad. But that hidden song inside her soul maybe ties into this. Russell has talked about how Ruby's got a crucially important part to play in the finale. So maybe the finale is the Trickster, the Black Guardian, and the White Guardian trying to aid the Doctor. Maybe the Doctor has to unleash the White Guardian, or maybe the Doctor is the White Guardian. He brings life. He's the god of life. That's why he too can kind of break the fourth wall, like Maestro, like Mrs. Flood. And maybe the reality war is a kind of adaptation of the Battle of Bannerman Road. Ruby's the Trickster's daughter, and maybe they use Unit Tower as this big hub for alien attacks rather than 13 Bannerman Road. This would also explain why apparently the Unit Tower set has been taken down. Maybe it gets exploded and destroyed. We know they're doing interesting stuff with Unit, that's been said multiple times. The public's perception of Unit's going to change. Maybe that's part of Conrad's wish. So let me know in the comments how you think all of that ties together. I've given you 101 possible theories there, and I don't quite know, there's a few things not clicking yet. But let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments down below. Is this a rough idea of who the unholy trinity are? Is the White Guardian bouncing the TARDIS away from May 24th with Mrs. Flood trying to use the Vindicator to get it back on track? And could we be seeing the Trickster appear properly for the first time in Doctor Who? Let me know your theories in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please remember to like, comment, subscribe and share. It really helps me out a lot. Check out the Patreon for exclusive early access to certain content. Also, apologies, the podcast, we're filming it tomorrow morning, so it will probably be out on Wednesday, which is much later than normal. Normally Mondays are podcast day, but we've all been busy. But thank you very much for watching and goodbye!
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Confused Adipose YouTube channel.
I will destroy you!
She's not seen a single episode.
No, I've watched your episodes.
Keep these sonic screwdrivers.
What else am I saying about the film? Don't watch this one.